North America's first yearling sale for horses with turf appeal is coming to Fasig-Tipton. Selected yearlings by the nation's top turf sires. The Fasig-Tipton Turf Showcase presented by Woodbine Racetrack, September 10th in Lexington, Kentucky. Where will you be?
Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Matt Bernier. Let's take a look at the field for race number 10 at Arlington Park on Saturday. It's the Grade 1 $600,000 Beverly D Stakes for fillies and mares at 1 mile and 3/16. And our coverage is presented by the Fasig-Tipton Turf Showcase. Interesting race, of course, international flavor, of course. It's a major Grade 1 stakes race on Arlington Million Day. Let's begin with some of the local hopes. The number 4, Dona Bruja, is a Group 1 winner in her native Argentina, and she has been nothing but impressive in 2 starts in North America. I mean, visually as well as from a speed figure standpoint.
I was torn between 2 horses. It was her and another filly who we'll touch on in a little bit. I like everything she's done. She looks like she can do anything. You know, that Mint Julep, she had some pace to run at. She came from off of it and came on, finished very nicely. The Modesty, there was no pace. She still came from the back. She never got out of a gallop. She was just in a canter the entire way, buried that field. She's going to face much better horses this time around. I think Nacho Correas has done a good job. They've spotted her well. They've got her ready to go for this race. I'm not going to be surprised at all if she wins.
Got the prep over the course as well. A lot of things work in this one's favor. That's Dona Bruja. The number 1 is Dacita. Dacita is a Grade 1 winner in her own right. She won the Diana in 2016. I've never been the biggest fan of Dacita. She's very goofy with her lead changes, but there's no denying her accomplishments. She's a millionaire. What did you make of her race last time out in the New York Stakes? I think you can give her at least a little bit of an excuse because there was just no pace on whatsoever.
The New York is a race you need to make a decision on what you think of it. If you like the horses that were forward, that took advantage of the slow pace, or you want the horses that were compromised. She was one of them that was compromised. I thought she ran fine. She's always going to be a little bit goofy with the lead changes, back to the left lead late. There is a part of me that wonders, I know she got that 100 in the bogey. I wonder if she's lost a little bit on the fastball.
The horse that beat her last time out in the New York Stakes, the horse that beat her in the bogey, is the much improved number 9 Hawksmoor. Let's take a look at the Timeform U.S. pace projector for this year's Beverly D Stakes. Hawksmoor has found herself as a front-running threat, and our friends at Timeform US believe that she'll make the lead one more time. With the presence of the number 6 Zepessa in this race, though, Matt, do you think she's going to have as easy a time as she did last time out in the New York? Because they just let her steal away that day.
No, I think she's going to be forward, but I don't think this is going to be a blistering pace, so this should work to her advantage. It's also worth noting she doesn't have to be out on the lead. You go back to that first start here in North America, she pressed the pace. So if Zepessa is the one that goes and takes the initiative and she sits just off, I think Julian Leparoux is going to be happy. I'm still not convinced. I know she wanted 1.25 miles. She had that with all of the running in her own way. I'm still not convinced that 1.25 miles is her friend.
I'm also not sure if Zepessa's best at this distance as well. She ran really well in last year's Beverly D. Remember, there was a fast pace, and she sort of mid-moved into it at a big price, and she was very, very game. And she, followed that race up with subsequent good efforts in the Rodeo Drive and the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. Perhaps she's rounding back into form for Michael Stidham. This will be start number 4 of her form cycle, but I do like her at slightly shorter distances. And the way this trip is going to play out, chasing a pretty talented horse in Hawksmoor, she's got to reel that one in, then hold off the talented closers.
I've always liked her. I just don't think she's as good now as she was last year as a 4-year-old. And as a 4-year-old, she couldn't get the distance, even with that hot pace. And like I say, she moved into it a little bit prematurely. I don't think 1 mile and 3/16 is what she wants.
Chad Brown has the number 7, Reina de Bateria, who dead heated for the score last time out in the Grade 2 Dance Smartly Stakes at 1.25 miles. Now, distance isn't going to be an issue for Reina de Bateria, who has a little bit of tactical speed. She does like to come from more to the back of the pack. But we talked about it yesterday. Boy, it seems like she loves the cooking up at Woodbine.
Yeah, I'm going to wait till they bring her back in the Canadian next month, because I think that's really what she wants. Some horses relish that long go and those big wide turns. Some horses hate them. She's one of them that loves it.
Let's talk about some of the longer priced runners in this field for a minute. The number 3 is Kitten's Roar. This horse was 3rd in the New York last time out. Another horse that might have been compromised a bit by the pace. 4th in the Jenny Wiley. Was not a bad effort at all 2 starts back. She's going to be a good price for a sensational trainer in Michael Maker. I just wonder if this is too tough.
I think it's slightly too tough. And you know what? She's an honest mare. I think she goes out, she runs her race. She's another one that's not very professional, goofy with the lead changes, but that doesn't diminish that late kick that she's got. Again, I'm kind of with you. I think she's a little bit in over her head.
Prado Sweet Ride couldn't get it done against Dona Bruja last time out. Didn't she just have the dream situation?
Yeah.
She sat the pocket behind moderate fractions. The rail opened up. She shot on through. She had every chance to win, and Dona Bruja ran her down. I just think that race proved that Dona Bruja is a superior horse right now.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, I know maybe I get a little bit too much into looking at these sort of things, but incrementally, she got a half mile, opening half in 50-3. She only finished in 41-2. It's not like she had some giant sort of kick, and she needed everything to go her way. If she couldn't win that race, she's not going to win this one.
European Sarandia is in here, coming off of 2 victories in a row in Germany. A rule of thumb usually is that the German stakes races are pale in comparison to those of the French and English and Irish. Sarandia, though, goes out for very strong connections. Again, this distance might actually be a little short for her.
Yeah, she probably wants a little bit longer. For what it's worth, as far as time form numbers are concerned, she's right there. She's not far off. I agree with you, though. I feel like she's a little bit class compromised. And even when she tried some better company, whether it was in Italy or in Germany, she didn't pass the test.
Let's take a look at our top selections for this year's Grade 1 Beverly D Stakes. We'll begin with Chad Brown's other runner, the number 5 Grand Jeté. And like Dona Bruja, so visually impressive. I mean, this filly really kicks in the lane.
Well, you and I talked about it a little bit. At what point do you look at a horse and say you're not fast enough? Because if you just look at it from a figure standpoint, she's not fast enough on buyers. She's not fast enough on time form. If you just watch the tape, she's every bit as good, if not better, than any of these other horses. Now, the concern is she quite this good as far as company is concerned? She was so good in the Eatontown 2 starts back, but again, against Light in Paris, and we've already talked about Zapesa. That most recent start, okay, she had a little bit of trouble, but when she finally got out into the clear, she kicked like a mule. And bar gold, she came back and she earned a 90. It was a little bit of a subpar effort in the De La Rose. There's a part of me that looks at it and says, Chad's wanted this race all along for her. She can finish with the best of them. The worst part is I'm going to be stunned if you get the 6-1 morning line. I think everyone's going to talk about her, and I think she comes down from there.
I'm not going to hold the 92 buyer against her from the last race. They went that first quarter in 26-1. It was so slow that it's just so hard to get a big figure. She ran okay two-back, certainly from a speed figure standpoint with that 95. My question for you is, are you concerned about this additional distance maybe sapping that kicks? We've seen it with Divisadero in the past when he tried to stretch out to 1.25 miles, but I think the point you made maybe allays all the fears. Chad's wanted this race all along.
That's the only thing, you know, and it almost reminds me a little bit. You see that she came over here, she was in an allowance race, and then they went into the Eatontown. I think all along he thought of bigger and better things, particularly reminded me of the way that they handled Antano, and not just because she's a Juddmonte filly as well, but they got an allowance race into her, they boom, throw her into the deep end. I think Chad would have thrown her into the deep end a little bit earlier, but he's got to get them all out there somewhere. I feel like this is what he's wanted all along.
I'm interested in your opinion on my topic, the number 10 Rain Goddess for the Old World Connections of Ryan Moore, Aidan O'Brien. You could look at it one way and say, well, she's chased Group 1 company and she's run very well in her last 2 races. That Enable, who won the Irish Oaks, looks like a really sensational 3-year-old filly. You can also say, well, she's a 3-year-old taking on older. She's eligible for Now Winners of 2 Life, and her only win came at 50-1. Is it just simply a situation where price has to be your guide? Somehow, if she goes off at 5-1, I think that's fair.
I would agree with that. The thing you got to keep in mind, too, she's going to get LASIK, so you assume that's going to move her up a little bit. O'Brien usually does that with his horses coming over here. I thought she ran really well in the Irish Oaks. I think Enable might be the best turf horse in the world. Now, keep in mind, she won the King George against older horses like, you know, Ulysses and Decorated Knight and Highland Reel, but that was over a complete bog. And Highland Reel, we know he doesn't act over that kind of ground. That's another story for another time. The 3rd place finisher, though, she came back to win a Group 3 or a Group 2, I believe. So, I mean, it's not like she's been facing, you know, ham and eggers. She's been facing some good company, and you could almost make the case that this is a slight sort of drop in class. I don't ever like horses that go on prolonged losing streaks after they win, especially at 50-1. But I think if there's ever going to be a horse that kind of bucks the trend, it's this filly.
Really a fun race. We'll see if Grand Jeté can step up into the Grade 1 ranks at this distance. You're going to go with her on top.
I went 5, 4, and 10 in here. Hawksmoor is the 9. I think she might stick around a little bit. I'm still terrified of the distance, but most of my play is going to be through those 3 horses, Grand Jeté, Donna Bruja, Rain Goddess.
I'm hoping that Ryan Moore can get Rain Goddess, the number 10, out there. Maybe sit just off Hawksmoor and Zapesa with sort of a 3-wide tracking trip. She showed some tactical speed overseas. It's obviously a different ballgame. From a pace standpoint, I'm going to go 10-9-4-2 in the Grade 1 Beverly D. Our coverage presented by the Fasig-Tipton Turf Showcase.